Volvo S60 sedans are exclusively petrol and have a sporty character. Volvo V60 station wagons were equipped with both gasoline and diesel engines. Moreover, conventional non-hybrid engines can only be found in cars of the first years of production. Diesels, station wagons only, can be identified by the designation D3 or D4, while petrol engines are designated T4, T5 and T6. In all cases, even hybrids, these are 2-liter 4-cylinder engines with supercharging, direct injection, particulate filter and timing belt. They are all from Volvo's modular VEA family. Gasoline and diesel engines have a simple or more complex supercharging system. They always require premium 0W20 oil. All engine variations have a timing belt drive. In diesel units it is updated after 150,000 kilometers along with the cooling system pump. Gasoline versions received an electrically driven pump, and belt replacement is provided after 240,000 kilometers or 10 years. As a rule, gasoline options are better. Firstly, they are cheaper to maintain, including significantly longer intervals between timing belt replacements, and are objectively more reliable. The most common problem, a cracked PCV, crankcase ventilation, valve diaphragm, is inexpensive to fix and easy to detect. In some gasoline versions produced in 2022 to 2023, oil leaks were observed through the compressor oil line. The reason is an insufficiently good seal at the oil line connections. This problem was eliminated during the recall campaign, as there was a risk of ignition of the leaking oil. Even with high mileage, gasoline versions do not yet suffer from anything terrible, if you do not take into account small oil leaks or slightly increased oil consumption in the most powerful versions. I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car. What breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro. Both are equally common in diesel engines, which have a much wider repertoire of faults. Especially among those cars whose owners follow the manufacturer's instructions to change the engine oil after 30,000 kilometers. 2-liter diesel engines of the VEA family, regardless of version, are equipped with a Denso IART common rail injection system with a pressure of up to 2,500 bar. The system is quite reliable. The D3 differs from the twin-turbo D4 by a simpler supercharger, a block without a balanced shaft, lighter pistons and lower maximum torque speeds, 4,500 versus 5,000 RPM for the D4. In this generation of V60 you won't find a D5 version or the weird power pulse pressure reservoir that acts as an air bomb for the turbocharger. Diesels always need AdBlue here. The urea tank holds 11.5 liters. Its level can be viewed in the onboard system, just like the engine oil level. The AdBlue injector sometimes becomes clogged with crystallized urea, but removing and cleaning it is not a difficult procedure. A less common problem is the AdBlue pump. Thanks to a modified and shorter EGR circuit, Volvo diesels do not suffer as much from rapid soot contamination as happened with older versions of these engines produced before 2018. Among the malfunctions, burst hoses to the intercooler, compressed air cooler, are observed. This is especially annoying when overtaking, when the engine completely loses traction and leaves you to the mercy of fate. Sometimes even the plastic intake manifold itself or the metal EGR pipe bursts. The modified version is reinforced around the flange. But the most expensive crack on VEA diesels is a crack in the engine block. This symptomatically invisible malfunction manifests itself as a bad oil seal. A leak of engine oil is detected at the junction of the engine and transmission. The risk of this malfunction occurring is not high. With high mileage, an increase in oil consumption is observed. Twin supercharged engines are more likely to do so. Junior petrol variants designated B3, B4, B5, V6 and diesel V4 diesel are derivative hybrids with a 10 kW starter generator in belt drive, powered by a separate 48-volt battery. Despite the additional components, they do not increase the likelihood of additional costs in the medium term. The Aisin 8-speed planetary automatic performed well in the VW Touareg 2, but it was a massive TR-80SD longitudinal gearbox with a torque of 850 Nm. The Volvo S60 is equipped with the small TG81SC from the economical AW F8FXX range of transverse engines that produce half the power. This is essentially the gearbox you know as 8E from Citroën, Peugeot and Opel, for example. If you regularly update the oil in the machine, it will not cause problems. The rear axle of all-wheel drive versions is connected using a Borg-Warner coupling. Oil renewal is required here every 60,000 kilometers. At the same time, you should clean the strainer, which is done on the removed coupling pump. Top plug-in hybrids have an all-wheel drive system that is connected by wire. The rear wheels are driven by an electric motor, which, together with an integrated clutch, reduction gear and distributor, forms a package called ERAD, electric rear axle drive. The weak point of the ERAD electric rear axle drive, in particular the 88 horsepower version, 65 kilowatts, is the insufficiently reliable electromagnetic clutch that connects/disconnects the electric motor from the transmission gearbox. Malfunctions occur less frequently than in the first Volvo XC90 hybrids. Failure of the coupling manifests itself in knocking and noticeable kicks when connecting the electric motor. ERAD has also had to be updated due to bearing wear, so it is recommended to change its lifetime oil no later than after 60,000 kilometers. Don't trust the manufacturer's lifetime lubrication claims for automatic and all-wheel drive transmissions. All Volvos built on the SPA platform, including the S60/V60 of this generation, have a trapezoidal front axle. It provides more accurate trajectory behavior, but is very sensitive to the slightest wheel imbalance. If your car shakes on the highway even with well-balanced wheels, replacing the front lower control arms should help. In the current original, they already have modified reinforced silent blocks that reduce susceptibility to shaking. True, at the cost of transmitting a little more detailed information about the condition of the road surface. Ball joints of the upper and lower arms run over 100,000 kilometers. The rear axle on an Avantgarde transverse composite leaf spring is absolutely reliable. Its comfort depends on the size of the wheels and the presence of conventional or electronically controlled shock absorbers. You won't find a more problematic air suspension here. Adaptive dampers improve suspension comfort. The standard setup of the conventional non-adaptive chassis is noticeably stiffer than what used to be the norm for Volvo. Brake discs last from 90,000 to 130,000 kilometers, pads, half as long. As for malfunctions of equipment responsible for comfort, the VCM communication module periodically fails. It is responsible for Bluetooth and communication with all online services, including remote communication with the original Vita diagnostics. Otherwise, the system is quite stable and reliable, especially in pre-restyling variants with the old Sensus infotainment system. From time to time there is freezing and minor quirks in the operation of the infotainment system of restyled versions. Usually everything is resolved with a software update. Over time, the left engine mount fails. It gives itself away with a rattling sound under the hood when accelerating. There are also refrigerant leaks from the air conditioning system, mainly due to leaky seals at the joints of the tubes. The APMS air quality sensor may fail. In this case, the automatic activation of internal circulation does not work, and an error message appears on the display. Sometimes parking sensors also fail. Usually they fail due to water getting into the sensor connectors, less often the software is to blame. Fuel gauge inaccuracies are caused by a software error in the engine control unit. There is a malfunction in the vacuum control in the fuel system. The defect affected the T6/T8 recharge plug-in hybrids, in particular the 2022 model year. When using original diagnostics, it is better to avoid any non-standard software chips, including disabling the speed limiter. On models released after March 2020, it is set at 180 km per hour. The manufacturer remotely checks the originality of the software every time the car is connected through proprietary diagnostics. If a non-original modification is discovered, Volvo uncompromisingly terminates the warranty, if it is still valid, and recently also blocks access to all updates. The car can be pampered with original Polestar chip tuning, which was officially provided by Volvo dealers, but only if the engine and transmission are in good condition.